Dark waves crash beneath an Egyptian moon. I can almost hear the whispers of the Nile, a river that has seen kings rise and empires fall. But among all its stories, one name still commands the world's attention: Cleopatra, a queen who wasn't just a ruler of Egypt, but a master of power, persuasion, and destiny itself. 1. The shadow of the pharaohs. When I look back at the fading light of ancient Egypt, Cleopatra's reign feels like a final spark before darkness fell. She was born in 69 BC, not purely Egyptian, but Macedonian Greek, descendant of Ptolemy I, the general of Alexander the Great. For 3 centuries, her dynasty ruled Egypt, not from the deserts, but from the marble palaces of Alexandria, a city of scholars, traders, and secrets. Cleopatra was only 18 when she ascended the throne beside her brother Ptolemy XIII. But Egypt was divided, its court a nest of intrigue, corruption, and foreign influence. Rome loomed large across the Mediterranean, hungering for Egypt's grain and gold. And amid that storm, an intelligent young queen would fight not merely to survive, but to command, too. The art of power. I imagine Cleopatra walking through the library of Alexandria, scrolls lining the walls, whispers of philosophy and science filling the air. Unlike most monarchs of her age, she spoke more than 9 languages, conversed with scholars, and understood politics with surgical precision. She knew that beauty could open doors, but intellect would keep them open. When Rome's civil war spilled into Egypt, Julius Caesar arrived to settle the dispute between Cleopatra and her brother. The young queen, exiled and desperate, devised a plan that would echo through history. Legend says she had herself smuggled into Caesar's chambers, rolled inside a carpet. When it unfurled before the world's most powerful man, Cleopatra emerged, calm, radiant, fearless. That night, the destiny of Egypt changed forever. 3. The Queen and the General. I can picture it. The flicker of torchlight, Caesar's sharp eyes meeting hers. He saw not just a woman, but an equal in ambition. Their alliance was both political and deeply personal. Together, they restored Cleopatra to the throne, defeating her brother's forces on the banks of the Nile. Months later, Ptolemy XIII drowned, and Caesar returned to Rome with Cleopatra's infant son, Caesarion, Little Caesar. For a time, she reigned in glory, sailing the Nile beside the Roman conqueror, draped in gold, her image shining like a living goddess. But Rome was not Egypt, and Caesar's enemies saw in her a threat, a foreign queen who dared to charm their ruler. When Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC, Cleopatra's world once again trembled. 4. The seduction of Rome. After Caesar's death, Rome was torn apart by rivalries, and Cleopatra, ever the strategist, saw opportunity in chaos. From the ashes of Rome's civil war rose Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general, bold, reckless, and hungry for power. Their meeting in Tarsus would become legend. When I imagine it, I see Antony standing on the shore, watching as Cleopatra's royal barge drifts toward him, sails perfumed with incense, oars of silver cutting through the river, musicians playing as the goddess Isis approaches. She didn't come to beg, she came to command attention. Antony was captivated, and soon conquered. Their union was intoxicating, love, politics, and spectacle intertwined. Together they dreamed of ruling not just Egypt, but the entire known world. To Rome, it was blasphemy. To Cleopatra, it was destiny. 5. The fall of a queen. But destiny has a cruel sense of humor. Antony's rival, Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, declared war. He framed Antony as a traitor, bewitched by a foreign temptress who sought to enslave Rome. The propaganda worked. In 31 BC, the Battle of Actium decided it all. Cleopatra's fleet fought valiantly, but the winds turned against them. Antony, broken and desperate, followed her back to Egypt. There in the city of Alexandria, their final chapter unfolded. I can almost see it. The marble halls silent, Roman soldiers closing in, the two lovers trapped by fate. Antony, believing Cleopatra dead, fell on his sword. She had him carried to her mausoleum, where he died in her arms. Days later, as Octavian's forces breached her palace, Cleopatra made her final choice. She would not be paraded through Rome in chains. Wrapped in royal robes, she took her own life, legend says by the bite of an asp, the symbol of divine royalty. At that moment, the light of Egypt's last pharaoh faded, but her story became immortal. 6. Legacy of a legend. Even now, I can't help but wonder, was she a villain or a visionary? To some, Cleopatra was a seductress who destroyed great men. To others, she was a brilliant strategist who fought to preserve her nation's independence in a world ruled by men. She ruled Egypt for 21 years, longer than most Roman emperors held power. She spoke to philosophers, commanded armies, and mastered diplomacy at a time when women were rarely seen, let alone heard, held. And though her dynasty fell, her image lived on, in marble, in myth, in memory. Every era paints Cleopatra in its own colors. The Romans saw a witch, the Renaissance saw a muse, Hollywood saw a goddess. But history? History remembers her as something far greater, the last pharaoh who dared to stand against an empire. As the golden sun dips below the horizon, I can almost hear her voice carried by the wind. Empires fall, beauty fades, still endures, more than 2,000 years later.